Hello everybody, in this video I have some mixed media art journaling to share with you with the Thompson's Craft Supplies design team using my February design team kit. Nearly forgot what month it was for a second there. If you haven't, I haven't shared any art journaling stuff for a while, so if you haven't seen me do this before, I don't really art journal like a lot of other people do. It's hard to describe, but there's like quite a common aesthetic with a lot of art journaling, and I don't really do that. I'm more of a collage-y kind of person, so arguably it's just junk journaling with more mixed media. But anyway, just to let you know, that's the kind of thing I do. So I started off, I haven't gessoed my page because in this is actually a scrapbook that I've repurposed into an art journal. The pages are so thick they don't really need gesso unless you're putting a lot of wet media. Like if I was doing watercolor, I would probably gesso it first. But I just took a 13 Arts rose stencil, which was in my design team kit, and stenciled some modelling paste through that. And then I'm using the Impasto Paint in Dusty Rose to cover the whole page. I kind of forgot how thick it was when I started doing this. I don't know how, I just had like a brain fart and forgot how thick it was, because it was just like, you were not going to see any of that stenciling if I just painted that straight on. So I took my spray bottle and just watered it down quite a lot, and I kind of like the way that has made, like, there's different shades of the colour going on all around the page. Like, it's quite a thick bit around the stenciling and in the middle, and then it's more lighter and patchy around the edges. I feel like it looks more interesting anyways. So drying that off, I wanted to add some craft paper. So just from my stash, this is craft paper rather than cardstock, and just ripping some pieces of that to place onto, I think I'm going to, the top left and bottom right corners. I was just fiddling around there because obviously where the rings or the coils of the art journal are, there's certain things you can't do right to the edge, and where I've put that piece down, there's that awkward bit at the edge between the coils where I was like, oh, I don't like the way that looks, so I do go back and cover that up. So I'm sticking that craft paper down just with some 3D gloss gel because I know I was going to do a lot of mixed media on top of it as well, so I wanted it to be nice and securely and firm down. Then just choosing a very pretty flower stencil from my stash. This is a Kaisercraft one, I do not know the name of it, and I'm using some Prima paper paste to put that on top of the craft paper. I've got a thing about white on craft at the moment. I don't know what it is, and I realise, you know, white on craft, absolutely groundbreaking, Grace, but I don't know, I'm just obsessed with it at the moment. I'm having a phase. So yeah, I'm not going to colour any of that stenciling, and I just think it looks so very pretty. And also I had that issue as well with where the coils are. I couldn't get the stencil to the edge of the paper, so I go back and do some stuff on top of that because it was just leaving an awkward gap. These papers I'm using here, these are from the oh, I'm having another brain blank. AB Studio Shabby Love Symphony papers, like the main part of my kit, and I couldn't remember the name of it. Just some scraps and bits and pieces. I didn't want to start off like tearing into a new uncut 12 by 12 piece. I've also got that tag, which is again made from that paper pack that's got some cut apart tags on it. I'd done this for my previous project and then not actually used it, so I had that spare. So just ripped up pieces, adding that tag. And then there was an awkward, there needed to be something else under that tag, so I just grabbed a random book page and put that underneath. Then again, filling in those gaps I was mentioning earlier that were annoying me, again with scraps of paper. This thing I'm about to put down, again from that paper pack, from one of the cut apart pages, it has all these phrases on. You're probably supposed to just cut them up and use them all over, or just use one or two, but I thought I would just keep the strip as is. Tore and distress the edges to make it less, you know, straight edged, and went around the edges of that in Distress Oxide in Tattered Rose and just plopped that down there, so there's just like a nice bundle of collagey ripped things. Couple of little paper flowers down at the bottom. Those were the two I had left from my kit that were sort of, you know, flat enough to put in my art journal. I didn't want to put any of the really bulky ones down. I've got this craft coloured doily, again this is just from my stash, and just adding some little bits and pieces of that. I knew I was going to have a big something right in the centre, which is why I haven't put anything in the middle yet. So I ripped some more of that craft paper and I started to write this quote with my white fountain pen ink and my glass dip pen, but that craft paper turns out to be super absorbent, and the ink just all but disappeared into the paper. So I went and got some craft cardstock instead to see how that would work, and that worked much, much better. The ink I'm using is D. Atramentis document ink in colour white, obviously, and yeah, it does soak into the craft cardstock a little bit, but not nearly as much as it did with the paper. I can't read you the quote at the moment because I don't have the art journal page in front of me, which was not very sensible, but there will be stills at the end, and there's the blog post as well, so if you want to read it, there'll be links to that. I haven't really gone around the edges of things with inks like I usually do in my projects. I kind of wanted it a little bit more natural for the most part, but I wanted this centerpiece to stand out a little bit more than the others, so I took some white ink, which is the Versamagic Dewdrop ink in Cloud White, and just went around the edges of that centerpiece quote. And then before I stick that down, just adding some bits and pieces underneath, like some more torn up book page, some more like scraps of the paper pack that I'm using. Oh, I wanted to add some more flowers as well, just to balance out the ones that are at the bottom. So I just found some more that are in my stash, and I'm just going to put those down. And then, yeah, adding some more scraps just around the centerpiece, so it just looks all ripped and torn and fun and stuff like that. So that all my little paper flowers have centres, I'm just going to take some Nouveau Stone Drops in pink granite just to put in the centre of each flower, because I find they just look a bit weird if they don't have centres. It just doesn't look right to my brain. And then with those done, I'm just going to cover up my little quote in the middle there so I don't get splatters all over it, and then do white splatters all over the page. I'm using here this Winsor & Newton drawing ink, again in white, and using a paintbrush just to splatter those all over the place. I found this is like the best splattery thing for white when you want it, because like often white spray sometimes soaks into things, you can't see it. White gesso watered down works just fine, but I'm lazy and I like to have something ready to go, so this ink is perfect. And where it had splattered all over that craft piece I used to cover up the quote, I can use that for another project. And I added a few careful splatters around the quote itself. And there we go, art journal page complete. Thank you so much for watching. Quite a quick video this week, but I did have a very long one last week. So anyways, yes, relevant links in the description as always. Blog post if you want to see that, if you want to see the pictures in more detail. Let me know if you have any questions. If I forget to link anything at all like that, please leave me a thumbs up if you enjoyed. And that's about it from me. I'm going. Thanks again. Bye bye.